He graduated from College of Engineering Trivandrum in 1979 and did his MTech from IIT Madras in 1981 in power electronics. Afterwards, he had a small stint of 7 months at ISRO Satellite Center in Bangalore, after which he joined Indian Railways in 1982. He worked in RDSO, he worked in Chitrajan Loco and various other places, and he took voluntary retirement in 2005. During his tenure in railways, he was instrumental in the localization or indigenization of the locomotive technology which railways purchased from ABB, Assia Brown Boveri, those days. And they had taken technology for 2 locomotives, one passenger locomotive called WAP5 and a goods locomotive called WAG9. And indigenously, railways themselves developed another locomotive, a passenger locomotive called WAP7, which is the workforce today in Indian Railways. You see that locomotive in most of the trains coming in, running around India. It's a white colored locomotive with a red stripe on the side. And that's a 6,000 horsepower locomotive used in passenger trains. And since Sadasivan is a firm believer of local technology, indigenous development, when he started this company called Advanced Rail Controls, they started developing everything on their own. So all the products that they have supplied to railways are 100% developed by them in Bangalore. And there is absolutely no technology transfer from any other company, any foreign company, or even any other Indian company. So he is a firm believer in local technology. And now they are on the development of the power equipment, the traction converter, the auxiliary converter, and the total load converter. He will explain all those things. So all the other products have been developed, the control products, and which they are already supplying to railways. So with this, I invite Mr. Sadasivan to give his technical talk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and good evening to everyone in this meeting. And welcome to the fascinating world of railways. This 1 hour is too short a time to go into even little.
The volume seems to be low.
Pardon? Okay.
The volume seems to be low.
1 second. Is it okay? Is it okay? Hello? Is it okay, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir, it's fine.
It's okay now?
Yeah.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, we are able to see the screen.
Okay. This is a brief about the equipment which are in the electric locomotive, because this is a field which I worked in railways for nearly 23 years, and even after leaving the railways, I am working in this field. So coming to Indian Railway statistics, is world's second largest network under one management, single management, that too government owned. That is very unique. Most of the railway companies, the government-owned companies are, maybe Russia is government-owned. Otherwise, many, even US and many other countries, partially government-owned and partially private. But this is under single government management. It has been working for so many years, I should say very effectively, successfully. Even though some areas we are lagging in the speed and advanced technology. Hello, broad gauge is 1676 mm, and Indian Railways have got the total route kilometers of 64,298. If you compare the track kilometer, which is track means single lines, if you add up individual track, it is 1,21,000 approximately. Out of 64,000 odd route kilometers, 35,000 odd already have been electrified, and as per the government projections, last year, Railway Minister mentioned that by 2022, it will be a full electric railway. That means 100% electrification will be done in Indian Railways. So that's why it gives, it attracts, it has got more relevance towards the electric locomotive and related with that, equipment related with electric locomotives. The system voltage what we adopt in Indian Railways is 25 kV, single phase, 50 hertz. The important thing here is that even though it is 25 kV, the grids, the catenary supply can vary from 27.5 kV at the lower side and up to 31 kV on the higher side. So whatever equipment we design, especially the power equipment which are directly interfaced with the power supply, it has to have that immunity to withstand this particular voltage variation. Secondly, the frequency, if you see the electricity board guidelines, it may be plus minus maybe 3% or something, but the railway specification for all the locomotive bound equipment, they specify much more variation than this. So this becomes a challenging task for the power electronic engineers to match this requirement of voltage variation and frequency variation. Coming to the locomotive statistics holding of the Indian Railways, you see that electric locomotives number around more than 7,000 numbers. And you will find that the oldest type is WAP1, WAM4, which is on top. WAM4, when I joined Railways in 82, that was a star performer. And I used to watch for, minutes. If some loco is passing, till it is vanishing from the scene, that WAM4, it was so stylish, narrow, but its horsepower is less than maybe around 3,500 SP like that. But now you see the population is only 16. That means it is all getting condemned and maybe very soon it will extinct from the scene. Similarly, WAP1, these are all the old vintage, late 70s. But what is shown in green is the latest technology locomotive, that is the three-phase drive locomotives, whereas the other technology is using the tap changer DC motors. Even the three-phase locomotives, if you count, it amounts to around 3,000 now. It is a large fleet for, you will not find so many large numbers of locomotives even in many other countries of three-phase drive, because our population and the requirement is so large. Regarding the control technology of the locomotive, basically, initially we had a tap changer based DC drive, wherein we use a DC series motor as a prime mover. And the latest technology, which is a variable frequency, variable voltage AC drive. So in one case, earlier we are using DC series motor, and now we use three-phase induction motors. These are the some images of the tap changer locomotives. These are WAG7 and WAP4. These are contemporaries. WAG7 is for goods and WAP4 is for passenger operation. The power is same, electrical equipment all are same, except that the gear ratio is different because passenger needs a higher speed, whereas freight does not need a high speed. So the gear ratio only will be different. Otherwise, most of the electrics are same. So these are the images. And the speed control is by mechanical tap changer at high voltage side. I will explain what it is. This is the scheme of the tap changer loco. The power is derived from the catenary at 25 kV, 50 hertz, a single phase. That is very remarkable. You see, railways are consuming single phase power at 6,000 or even more than that. In some of the locomotives are more than that. Even in Japanese, we have got much more than 6,000 SP, 7,000 SP or something like that. And it is single phase. Whereas in domestic supply, you know that more than 1 or 2 SP, the EBs will not allow the single phase supply. So this is another major challenge and task for railways to manage such a high power on single phase. So there are a lot of schemes to manage that, because in the grid, ultimately it has to be balanced. Because you cannot have this entire power from a single phase. So there is a mechanism to balance at the grid substation. Somewhat balancing is possible. So that is done in the power supply side of the railways, which is not today's topic actually. So we concentrate on the locomotive. So it is 6,000 HP or plus single phase power. So in the tap, it has got a transformer. It's a very special transformer. You don't find it in industry. Of course, you might have heard about the tap changing mechanism in the substation for voltage increase or decrease during variation. But here it is an on-load tap changer on board the locomotive attached with the transformer. This tap changer is attached with the transformer. From the catenary through the pantograph, through the circuit breaker, it enters the primary, and primary has got 32 taps. And the other side, that is the ground, is going to the rail. So in traction system, only one supply comes from the catenary, the return is earth. And it is also very difficult to pass on the return current to the rail because the axles are moving. So you'll have to pass on the return current through a moving mechanism through the bearing into the rail. So that is also another mechanism, another challenge. So what happens, the tap changer can go from 0 to 32, and accordingly the primary winding, which is, you're seeing the next winding, which is connected to the variable tap, that is called the primary winding. So it can have lowest maybe around the 23 or 32 volt up to 25 kV can vary. And this control, whenever the driver throttles, using the master controller, this tap is moving up or down. So depending upon the condition, the speed requirement, the driver moves the tap. And there is a servo mechanism and all are working behind the tap changer to ensure that it moves smoothly. But you know that when you change on-load tap changing, there will be again associated electrical challenges like sparking, and you'll have to quench the arc because you are moving the current from one tap to another. With the current, you are moving it. So in the second, you have got two traction windings, which is around the 865 volt. So you reduce it, isolate it, then you pass it through the rectifier. It's a bridge rectifier without any control. It's uncontrolled rectifier. Output of that is smoothing reactor, and it is passed on to the DC series motor. So I have shown 6 motors because these locomotives, most of them are having 6 axles. Each axle is powered by one motor. So one group is powering 3 motors which are connected to one truck. In our terminology, we call it as bogie. Actually, the truck is nothing but a bogie. But if a general public, if you say bogie, they think that it is a coach where you sit. So in the locomotive technology, bogie means where the motors are mounted, on which the superstructure is fitted. So this is arrangement for tap changer locomotive. So this is a modern locomotive which we have. It's a 3-phase locomotive. Originally, Indian Railways went for a transfer of technology of 2 types, WAG9 and WAP5, which Sir told in the introduction. The WAP7 is re-engineered by Indian Railway engineers, CLW and RDSO together, using the WAG9 platform, but increasing the speed and the software. So this was a remarkable achievement. Initially, there were teething troubles, but now this is one of the very important framework for hauling the Rajdhani, Shatabdi and very long trains, because it has got a tremendous power compared to the previous version. Below is the WAP5, which has come with original ABB design. I will give you a small comparison. These 3 types are there. WAP5 is very significant because it is very lightweight. It has got a total weight of 78 tons. With each axle will get around 19.5 tons each is sharing. For a passenger locomotive, the weight has to be less. And another criteria is there, what we call it as the unsprung mass on the axle or the wheel. So here, the motors are fully suspended. The motor weight will not get passed on to the axle. So the motor is mounted on the bogie, then the axle rotates. So very, very small portion of the weight will only come on the axles. So that at high speed, the unsprung mass is much less. So it will not give a lot of vibration and shock related stress on the rail, and you can have it at high speed. Secondly, the sidewall of this design is a fluted design with the 2 mm plate is used in the sidewall. It's all to reduce the weight. And even the gear case also is aluminum here. It's very unique. Normally we use steel gear case, but here it is aluminum. And it has got only 4 axles. So each bogie has got 2 axles and totally 4 axles. And each motor is rated around 1000 kilowatt. It's a high power motor, fully suspended, and the motor voltage is 2.18 kV, which is given by the converter. Coming to the WAG9 is a freight locomotive. The maximum speed is 100 km/h. There is a maximum speed. It is having more weight. Against the 79 ton there, it has got 123 tons. Speed potential is 100 km/h. Whereas this WAP5, we have tested at 180 plus in the actual trial with RDSO. But it can go up to 200 and 225. That's what ABB declared, that with improvements in the design, it can go up to 225. But Indian Railways have not tested because we are yet to reach that stage. Then WAP7 and WAG9, the power wise, everything is same, except that the gear ratio is different, because it will give because of gear ratio change, it gives a higher speed. Otherwise, and here what happens, the electrics are same. Common equipment, you can see the common equipment between all the 3 classes: converter, auxiliary converter, vehicle control unit, everything is same. The software will decide how the loco should work. So characteristics is decided by the software. This is the actual power circuit of the 3-phase loco. I will come to the this one. You can just see here. From the pantograph, there is a surge suppression here, surge protection. Then there is a circuit breaker. There is a earthing switch to isolate the circuit while working within the locomotive. You like to isolate open the circuit breaker and also earth the primary of the transformer. Then you find the transformer here, and it has got 4 traction windings and 4 harmonic filter winding and 1 auxiliary winding. But in passenger version, we have got 2 more windings for the hotel load converter. So this transformer itself is a very complicated piece. From the traction secondary, there are 4 windings. 2 windings are fed to 2 converters. The 2 converters together will feed a common DC link. From the DC link, there is an inverter which feeds 3 motors in a bogie. So this is arrangement of the G9 and P7 locomotive. But when it comes to the P5, which has got only 4 motors, everything is same. Only thing is the output connection will go to only 2 motors. That's the only difference. So, and this converter is a very unique converter. It can take the power or give back the power. So we normally call this as a 4-quadrant operation. Means it can power the motor, or from the motor, when the locomotive brakes in a down gradient, the kinetic energy can be recovered through the motors. Motor will generate work as generators. Energy will flow back into the DC link. From the DC link, the same converter can pump back the energy back into the grid. So it is very effectively used in Indian Railways. That is a major advantage of these locomotives, that is, it has got the regenerative capability. So it is highly energy efficient and very economical. Basically, the locomotives can be treated as a, what I should say, moving generating stations. This is an image of the traction converter. This again, this I have taken from the public domain. These images, various makes are there. The one which is at the bottom basically is a original converter which came from the ABB. That is a GTO base. So you can see this aluminum 4 tanks we are seeing. Inside the tank is oil filled, and GTO semiconductor devices are immersed in oil inside, and the oil is force circulated and cooled by a forced air cooled radiator. The top ones are some other indigenous supplies. I don't know because the make is not there. Just for illustration purpose, I have put the images. The main feature of this converter, traction converter, is it can have a unity power factor. the electrical engineers understand what is meant by unity power factor. Rather, every engineer will like to have his equipment working at the unity power factor. And another feature is it can control the harmonic current, line current harmonics. I will come to that little more in detail. What is unity power factor control? This is a voltage and current waveform. Just for illustration, I plotted through Excel. Here we can find that the red signal, red is, I marked it as current. It is leading the voltage. Blue is a voltage. That means one second. There is some problem. Okay, here. So here the current is lagging. The red color is lagging the blue color. So this is a lagging power factor load. This is a leading power factor load. This is a unity power factor. That means both the current and voltage are merging together. This is unity power factor. There is no phase difference between the voltage and current. What is advantage? This is a situation. Suppose what is instantaneous power? Instantaneous power is voltage into current. Instantaneous voltage into instantaneous current. The positive power will be developed only when the voltage is positive and current is positive, or voltage is negative and current is negative. So here, if there is a phase lag, the apparent power and actual power will be different. Apparent power is voltage into current, you will get one value, but the real power which goes into the load will be less. So taking the theory in other way, for the same power, if the power factor is not unity, you need more current to get the same power. So that means the line will have more current for the same active power. The more current will produce more loss in the catenary, because the current is flowing from the substation through the catenary up to the locomotive point. So you can just imagine the extra current which is flowing through the wire, which produces heat. And also the equipment need to be rated high because it is taking more current for the same active power. Okay. Other feature is line harmonics. Harmonics, you understand that any electrical engineer will be very happy with the sine wave, because we have been taught in the beginning that everything is referred with respect to sine wave. That is a natural wave which will come out of a generator, sine wave. But what happens in the locomotive, you are having a single phase input, you are converting that to DC, then the DC you are again chopping and making a AC. So in the process, the entire converter becomes a non-linear load. Means the current will never be a sine wave like voltage. Voltage input is sine wave, current will not be sine wave because of the chopping action and non-linearity of the circuit. So here I am showing that the red only is a voltage, the other one, that sawtooth type, that could be the current when you operate using the non-linear converter. So here, how to reduce the line harmonics? Because what happens, electricity boards have put restrictions to on these utilities, that you cannot pollute the grid beyond a particular limit. They have put the harmonic distortion limits. So when you have this type of locomotive, so many running in the grid, under the grid supply, the current will be highly polluted with a high harmonics, which will affect other consumers, other loads, because of the distortion. So this locomotive is having a self-control to reduce the harmonics in the line current drawn from the catenary. How it is? I am showing the current with one converter. I have shown that in one bogie we have two converters, another bogie another two converters. This is a waveform of the current of one converter. What happens, the other converter, you don't fire at the same instant. What you do, you stagger, so that when one converter will be switching on, other will be in the switch off condition and having a freewheeling of the current. So the current will never coincide. The current rise and fall will never coincide in the line. Like that, you have got 4 converters in the one locomotive. So this staggering phenomena will make the line current, this orange. This is the resultant of these two. This means one bogie current. If you add the other bogie, it will become further smooth. No doubt, the ripple will become 4 times, but the harmonic RMS value of the current will be less. So again, for that, in this locomotive, there is a feature to filter the harmonics also by having a filter winding with a tuned capacitor network, short circuited capacitor network in the transformer. Transformer, there is a winding, and that current passes through a tuned capacitor filter, so that the current drawn from the catenary will be almost like a sine wave. So this is a feature which is having it in this locomotive. This is some of the recordings, because we also are in the process of developing the converter. So we have already made a 3 kilowatt level converter. This is a waveform which we have plotted in our scale down model. You can see exact plot what I have shown it in the theoretical this one. You will be getting like this. So this is the adding the 2 converters, you get a better smooth curve. That is about the traction converter. There is another equipment which is very important in the locomotives, the auxiliary converter. In these locomotives, there are 3 auxiliary converters, each rated 130 kVA. Again, here the input is 1000 volt single phase, output is standard 415 volt 3 phase. This is needed for operating so many of the auxiliary machines. For example, for the train brake, you need a compressor to work. For cooling, you need a 3-phase blowers, then pumps. So many auxiliary machines are needed within the locomotive. So for feeding those 415 volt supply, you have static converters, which are 3 in numbers, each 130 kV. There is another converter which has been introduced subsequently, which was not a feature in the original locomotive. But in the original locomotive, the facility for the winding was given in the transformer. Hotel load is what? You might have noticed in Rajdhani train, 2 diesel generator cars will be running, one attached in the front and one attached in the rear. And when the train comes to the platform, you will have that noise. Because it is feeding the power to the AC coaches, lighting power, air conditioning, then pantry, electrical pantry car. This is given by the generator cars. Now this project has been in the mind of railways so many years ago, but there were many problems in implementing this. Like suppose what happens if the catenary fails, locomotive will stand. If you don't have a standby power, then the entire coach will be in dark. AC will not work. So because of this passenger complaint and fear, the railways were not able to implement this. But last 10 years, they have taken a decision to implement. Successfully, it has been developed also. But again, as a precaution, they keep 1 generator car in the train. Out of 2 generator cars, 1 is still there, but not operated. In case a catenary fails or some derailment happened and the train is diverted in a non-electrified route, you need power. So for such contingencies, you have 1 generator car idling, but not working. So this is a hotel load converter, which is needed only in the passenger locomotives. Because freight trains, you don't have a hotel load. Actually, means it's all freight wagons, you don't need a hotel load. The third equipment is a vehicle control unit. This is the brain of the locomotive. This is 1 rack which I have shown, but there are 2 similar racks, but not the identical function. So each share the load. It is not exactly redundant. There are 2 racks, and you can see the number of PCBs. There are maybe around 16, 17 processes are there in both together. And it carries out various functions. The entire locomotive control is implemented in the software within this vehicle control unit. This is connected with the traction converter, auxiliary converter, hotel load converter, and any other intelligent device which is in the locomotive. This VCU is connected, and the communication between these devices is called the MBB, which is a standard as per IEC 61375. This IEC 61375 is called the TCN, Train Communication Network, exclusively developed for the communication on board the equipment and between the locomotives only. So this is basically a railway specific standard, and it is a very, very robust data communication protocol implemented after years of research especially started with Europe, involving ABB, Siemens, and so many other companies who are pioneers of the traction. So we also implement in India this IEC 61375 standard. And the advantage is, suppose you want to equip a totally new equipment with some new functionality. If you define that it has to be compatible to IEC 61375, it is something like, you can just mount and hook it onto this network. So that equipment becomes part of this network. And it has to talk to each other. So there are some handshaking signal possible, but otherwise physical interface, protocol interface will be ensured. So this is becoming very prominent now in India also. So this is another equipment which is in front of the driver desk. It basically is a man-machine interface. What the condition of the locomotive is informed to the driver through the display. The driver can also interact. He can see the status. He can go deep into the multiple levels of menus are there, and a lot of information is passed on. In case there is a failure, the driver will be instructed what to do also. These are all available here. Driver guidance is available. He need to follow those guidance. In earlier days, before the display was introduced, because this display is not there in the original locomotive which came to India. This is actually this product, we are one of the suppliers, and we are one of the very leading suppliers for this equipment. And this is a MBB based MBB network protocol. So you hook onto the locomotive, the network system, it becomes part of the network, and it communicates with that. It can get the data from converter, auxiliary converter, or VCU from anywhere. So that is a flexibility it has got. It has got a touchscreen and also a membrane keyboard, Linux based with 1024/768 pixel resolution, and works at 110 volt DC power supply, because locomotive power supply, control power supply is at 110 volt DC, which again is subject to variation between 77 to 137.5 as per IEC. There is an IEC standard which governs all the electronic equipment on board locomotive. That is IEC 60571. So that specifies that any equipment which is on board locomotive, if it is nominal supply, battery supply is 110, it should work normally within a range of 77 volt to 137.5 volt. So this complies with that. This is yet another equipment which we are again one of the leading suppliers of this. Even though railways have given orders, it is yet to go in a large scale in the fleet. Our prototype equipment has been now proven for last 1 year. So we have to supply another 54 numbers. And there is already a railway placed order for 150 numbers. The advantage of this is, it is sitting in the locomotive, and the real status is captured. Again, this is a MBB, the same MBB network based. As you hook onto the same MBB, it fetches the real-time data, and it also takes the location, GPS location of that particular locomotive at that instant. It also retrieves the locally logged fault. So the entire packet is sent at a very fast periodic interval to a base server using the GSM network. So in the base server, once the data comes, you can operate using an analytics tool and give alert, advanced prediction. So many things are possible. So this is a thing which is predictive maintenance and remote monitoring is going to be a big thing in future. For especially the difficulty is, these are moving asset. Had it been a fixed asset, the remote monitoring is so simple. But here the locomotive itself is moving, so there you have to capture the data and bring it to the base server. This is again another product wherein we are a leading supplier. This is a very safety critical equipment. You might have heard recently some YouTube presentation of that Python and so many 108 wagons of wagon train has been run as a single train by putting so many locomotives in the train. So this is called actually heavy haul. This terminology in railways is called heavy haul or long haul. So Indian Railways also ventured 10 years back this project and successfully, very successfully indigenously developed this product. Here what happens, you can add the trains one behind the other, and the locomotives will be at the same place where it means you have one locomotive in the front of a train, you add another train, so that locomotive is in the middle. You can add one more train like that. So locomotives are dispersed in different parts of the train. Normally in this operation, the slave locomotives are not supposed to have any crew. But when Indian Railways experimented initially, for safety purpose, they kept a assistant driver or driver for the sake of it, just to see that in case there is some eventuality to take a manual action. Otherwise, these locomotives, slave locomotives, are just obeying the master locomotive and the commands go through wireless. There is a UHF radio link at 424, 430 megahertz is a radio frequency link allotted by the WPC Telecom Ministry, licensed band spectrum. So the radio works in that band, and whatever command is given by the master locomotive, it is passed on to slave locomotives. The specification of RDSO spec calls for you can work with one master and up to 3 slaves. Up to 4 slaves. So you can have totally 5 locomotives working together through wireless. So this technology, it has been very successful development for indigenously, I should say. So delay. Okay. Yeah. This is another electronic equipment which goes into the locomotive. It is fitted in the driver desk. It is a throttle or joystick, you can say. What the aircraft, in the aircraft you have the joystick for control of the pilot. Here it is master controller. The functions which are possible, you can select the direction of driving. The driver can select the direction using one handle. This direction selection handle which is on top. And there is a joystick type of a thing which normally it is at the vertical level, 90 degree. If you move forward away from you, then it is traction. So it gives the tractive references given to the locomotive control so that it accelerates. If you want to do electrical braking, you bring it towards you. There's a downwards. Then it applies electrical braking. In these locomotives, in most of the occasions, you can bring the train almost dead speed using the electrical braking. That is a feature. So the pneumatic brakes are applied by the driver towards the end. After when it comes below 5 km per hour, the electrical braking is not effective. Then only the pneumatic brakes are applied by the driver. So the advantage is wear and tear of the brake shoes of the locomotive, that is minimized very much. And when you apply a pneumatic braking, lot of stress also get developed in the brake rigging. So all are avoided through electrical braking. Again, we are one of the suppliers of this equipment. We have developed this successfully. It gives an output at 4 to 20 milliampere output, proportional to the angle of movement. And it uses a non-contact type of encoder for sensing the angle. And it is software based. So in case tuning or anything is needed, you need not have to change any hardware. So we do a small microcontroller is there, you just reprogram it, it becomes okay. Okay. This is a product which we supplied. Again, this is indigenously developed by us, which is Doppler radar based adhesion control system. See, what is adhesion control? Adhesion control, you know about the slip. When you start a car on a muddy area or during rain, or on a sand on the road, you will be throttling fully, the wheels will be rotating at full speed, but your vehicle speed is 0. it will only plow the mud. So a similar condition comes in the locomotive. But fortunately for the road vehicles, the tires are rubber and the road is maybe tarred road or mud road. The materials are different and the rubber normally has got a high coefficient of friction. So this friction in our this railway terminology, we call it as adhesion. Adhesion is basically the coefficient. That means in a locomotive, irrespective of the power of the traction motor or number of motors, the linear force which you can get is limited by physics. So for example, the weight of the locomotive, if it is 100 ton, the adhesion which is realizable on, because it is steel to steel, it is not rubber and tar. The wheel is steel and the rail is wheel. So rail to wheel friction or the adhesion available, if it is a rusty and dry condition, you may get maximum 0.4. Otherwise, if it is some dead leaves are there or some vegetation is there, or if it is raining, grease is there, it may drastically reduce to 0.2, 0.19 or even 0.2, 0.3. It is dynamic, it will vary very dynamically. So in a locomotive, it is a real challenge for the propulsion control, especially starting very heavy loads at the starting point, initial starting, in a very bad weather and also bad track. So I will tell you why it is needed. So normally 0.4 is okay. That means if a locomotive is having a dead weight of 100 kg, 100 tons, you cannot get more than say 40 ton linear force, even though your motor is having much more capacity from the point of view of power. So that is a physics basically. So here what happens, the engineer's challenge is how to derive the linear force maximum with the available conditions, because the environment you cannot change, a track you cannot change, a rain you cannot stop. So you have to have an adhesion control system. Now earlier when the original locomotive, they had an algorithm, but the problem is how to detect the slip. You have to, the control system has to detect that there is a slip. Accordingly, it has to reduce the torque and slowly reapply. That is possible. That is possible because the moment the slip starts, it plows the rail and the friction loses exponentially. So it will never start. The loco will stall and the driver has to call for a rescue engine. That itself cannot start. But how to know the slip? How to find out the slip? Because there are many conditions where all the 6 axles will slip. So the relativity is lost. We cannot compare. If there is some reference, we can compare. Yes, there is a slip. If all are working at running at a high speed, reference is lost. So the radar is used to find out the absolute ground speed. Because even the wheels are spinning, unless a linear motion is coming, radar will not give a signal. So this is used to detect the slip, and after detection, it is manipulating the motor control to gradually reduce and come to a level where readhesion is possible. Again, release it back to the normal slowly. Otherwise, again it will slip. So that's a recovery process. So we supplied around 142 equipment for freight loco. This may not be needed for passenger because passenger, the linear force needed during starting is much less. This is another electronic equipment which is used to sense the smoke and fire conditions in the locomotive, because you know as per the IEC spec itself, any electronic equipment which goes into the locomotive, the ambient temperature itself is defined to 50 degrees, 60 degree ambient. And the testing temperature, dry heat temperature, sometimes the standard says 70 degree dry heat. And customer sometimes increases that to 75, 80 like that. So the equipment has to work at that ambient. That is a very, very severe condition persisting inside the locomotive. And there were cases it is prone to fire and smoke because electrical connections are there, contacts are there, loose contacts are there, and the oil is there for cooling purpose. So it is highly prone to fire, definitely. So this equipment will detect and warn the driver in case of a fire. It can switch off the circuit breaker and want the driver to do further action. But if the fire started, originally there was no remedy. It may switch off the circuit breaker, but still the fire will continue. That's why in locomotive, the materials used has got a very specific fire qualification standard. It should not be inflammable, and there is standard. Means it should extinguish by itself in case of a fire also. But there are cases where fire has happened, locos have been fully burned. I have seen in one of the case, I was an investigation officer in a particular WAG9 locomotive fully burned, this three-phase loco. So this equipment detects that. Maybe a few cases it can protect, but in case the fire is really advanced and the locomotive is in a full speed running, because it will also, the wind also will aid in the expanding the fire. But it is a requirement. This is another equipment called a speedometer. It is a mandatory equipment in every locomotive. The driver, even though in the display he has got a speed dial in the display, graphical display, he will get the speed in the graphical display, but the driver is instructed to follow this speedometer, which is like a statutory requirement. And it has got a recording also in case of accidents or in case of overspeeding or any mishap. First thing is like a black box. First thing to do is that they will go and take out the memory of this and download and analyze what was the speed at that time of, because it has got a distance reference and the speed reference both, speedometer. And in addition, it also calculates the energy taken from the catenary and records. So it is called a speed indicating recording and energy monitoring system. This is last but not the least, this is also one of our first product which has been developed very successfully indigenously as an import substitute for originally used a passive sensor called vegan sensor. Vegan sensor is actually a patented technology. The inventor name is Vegan, engineer Vegan, but that has become not available. It's a European source. So in Indian Railways had faced the problem and they approached this company, and this was developed successfully. You will see that there are a good percentage of fleet is provided with this ARC make speed sensor. This works on Hall effect principle. We have used a Hall effect sensor. It has got two output pulses, 90-degree phase shifted, to resolve the direction within the electronics. I think I come to the end of the session. It was just an overview of the equipment without telling the principle of working. Just an overview that what all things are there in the locomotive, electronic equipment. Of course, there are many other equipment within. So I come to the end of the presentation session. It is, what's the time now? Yeah, 8:50.
Oh, thank you, Sivan.
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity.
There may be, I have not seen any questions on the chat, this thing, but I would ask the participants to
We can mail
address
it.
your questions, because you will not get a more knowledgeable person in India on the matters of electric locomotive, because he has spent a lot of part of his life inside the locomotive in whatever ambience, 60 degrees ambient inside the locomotive, and he knows in and out of every product which is used inside the locomotive. So he is the best person to get any of your doubts clarified. So please, either you can put your questions on the chat box, or even you can ask. Better to put it on the chat box so that everybody will see, and then he will give the answer.
First chat. Two chats are there. How to reply, sir?
No, you can answer it. They will just type it out and just tell it.
Thanks. Yes, thanks.
They just ask here. You can read it and answer.
Next time you travel in the train, you try to understand, what all sophisticated equipment are inside the locomotive. It's
Yeah.
not just, pushing a lever and the train starts running.
Yeah,
Much
that-
more, many more things inside the locomotive. I'm not seeing any questions, only everybody is thanking and
Yeah. What is the difference of locomotive that is being used in train 18? Okay, the difference of locomotive. Okay, I will answer this. One question is, what is the difference of locomotive that is being used in train 18? Now, train 18 category of rolling stock. See, again, I will introduce a term called rolling stock. Rolling stock is used in railways. Anything which rolls on wheel rails is a rolling stock. It can be a wagon, it can be a coach, it can be a locomotive. So when that particular rolling thing can propel itself, we call it as a traction rolling stock because it can give traction also. So train 18 comes in a category called a train set or a train set. There the power is distributed. In the locomotive, it is 6,000 horsepower concentrated in the head. And that locomotive cannot accommodate any person other than the driver and assistant driver. Full of equipment only. In train 18, it has to accommodate the equipment at the same time, it has to accommodate the passengers. So some of the designs are really difficult as compared to locomotive. First of all, you have to you cannot mount anything on top where the passengers sit. So all the equipment goes under sling. So that is a big challenge. Equipment goes under sling, it's a big challenge. And secondly, the power is distributed. In a train, you find only one locomotive or two locomotives in the front. But in a train 18 type of situation, we can like EMUs. EMUs, electrical multiple unit, suburban trains. You have 3 or 4 powering coaches in the entire train. So it is a distributed power so that each coach, the power can be less. So you can have a smaller size equipment but under sling. And secondly, the communication. Every power coach and the individual coaches will have to communicate very seamlessly without any break. So that is another challenge. So there we introduce a term called TCMS. That is a thing called a train control and management system, TCMS. So all the computers will have to manage by themselves. And for example, the driver is giving command to open the doors. When the train reaches a platform, it gives a command to open the door. Again, the door platform can be left side or right side. So in foreign countries, it will sense which side platform comes. Open command, it will open only the right side platform doors. And all the doors are to be opened simultaneously. And while closing also, it has to close properly, give a feedback to the driver and to the control that all doors are closed and secured before he can propel. Otherwise, traction will not be allowed. So this entire safety control and management. And secondly, it is passenger operation. Anything which is connected to the passenger goes for ultimate safety requirements, unlike a freight based train. So train 18 is basically the propulsion equipment will not have much difference. The converter is same converter, the power level will be different, but it is under sling. So the sizing and mounting and environment condition, because it is exposed outside, subjected to rain and all those things, whereas a locomotive equipment goes inside. So it is protected. So it is more challenge to design the equipment for train 18 type of a train set. That's a difference. Otherwise, I don't find that technically there is much of a difference. Another question is the electric power used by diesel locomotives 25 kV and even the electric locomotive using diesel locomotive, you don't need a power supply from catenary. In diesel locomotive, there is a diesel generator set. So diesel engine drives a 3-phase alternator. That alternator rectifies into DC. That DC is converted into AC and given to the motors in diesel, because overhead, there is no catenary in the overhead line. Whereas in electric locomotive, in India, the system is 25 kV, 50 hertz. Some countries like Europe, it is 15 kV, 16 2/3 hertz. Very odd. So clearly diesel locomotive, it works on the prime mover diesel engine. You need only diesel oil to be put. Why can't be a engine be designed which can work both on diesel and electric power? Yeah, attempts have been made to have a hybrid locomotive. What you are saying, the hybrid locomotive, maybe if the diesel locomotives, as a policy, if the diesel locomotives are to be phased out from the environment pollution point of view and the energy point of view, then this will not have much of a relevance. Otherwise, earlier RDSO and DLW tried for a diesel electric hybrid. They tried. What is a barrier that India facing with the high-speed railway? Yes. There are many barriers. Basically, technology barrier itself is the thing. See, you can have high speed. For that, you have to develop yourself. No, you have to come to that stage. So you cannot suddenly jump to 300 or 400 kmph suddenly. So you have to pass through the speed. If it is to be totally indigenous, I am telling. So you go from, now it is 160 is the maximum passenger speed. You can go from 160 to 200, 230, 250, 300. That's how people have gone. In 1990, when I visited Japanese, the Shinkansen, the bullet train, what is so-called bullet train, the maximum operating speed was 230 kmph. 230. Now, their operating speed is maybe 360 or 300, something like that. Whereas they might have tested above 400. The Alstom, France, TGV, they tested above 500 kmph on rail wheel interaction and recorded. But operating speeds are less. They might be operating at 370 or 360. That's for the safety margin they give. But technology they have taken to that level. In Chinese also they have taken that speed much above the Europeans. So basically, if you do yourself and progressively upgrade, you can be confident. If you transplant the technology like what we are getting in Ahmedabad, Mumbai, high speed, it is a totally transplanted technology. The investment is the main thing. What is a barrier is a cost. If you bring in outside technology, money is needed, nothing else. So they will implement and go. If you want to develop ourselves, we will have to do hard work and do it ourselves here. And should have confidence on Indian engineers and give an opportunity to Indian engineers to do that, basically. See, because I had a small stint in ISRO, in the beginning they told me, I always compare anything with ISRO, their achievement. Because technology was denied to ISRO right from beginning. The moment technology is denied, you perform. If technology is available as a commodity, it is very difficult. Even aircraft, fighter planes and the defense equipment are also available on purchase. So even we don't have enough of research in that direction. Basically that. Okay, now another question is, can you please explain the HOG working? How is electricity be distributed directly from loco to rakes without the requirement of separate power tapping car like AP7 and AP5? HOG, head-on generation. Basically, you have to collect the current from one point. Otherwise, you will have to put, if you want to collect the current HOG working, how is electricity be distributed directly from loco to rakes? Separate power tapping car like WAPs. See, from the loco to rake, it runs a 750 volt high voltage cable is run between the coaches using couplers. So the power is collected by the locomotive at single phase, converted into three-phase in the locomotive. That three-phase power is distributed on to the coaches through couplers, wires running from coast to coast. That is a arrangement, because if there is no other mechanism possible. How many patented technologies does railway have in electric locomotive technologies? I think hardly anything. The patent, I don't think that if at all any patent comes, it has to come from RDSO, because you see all the technologies, we have taken technology from outside. The tap changer technology came from the French group. It's called 50 Cycles Group in 60s. Three-phase technology came from ABB. Now it is called Bombardier Transportation. It's also bought from outside. If at all there is a patent, it may be in some wagons or some parts which have been invented by RDSO through Indian industries. Otherwise, we are very poor in the patent filing and patent development.
If there are no more questions, can we close the talk? I don't see any more questions, only that the last question is.
There are no new messages.
Just answered.
One more, thanks a lot.
We thank Mr. Sadasivan for spending his time.
Okay, thank you,
He's
sir.
sitting in Bangalore. We are all sitting in various places.
Yes.
So he is sitting in his house in Bangalore and is giving us this presentation.
Yes.
And of course, as I told you, he has been a site person, a person on the field, and sitting inside the locomotive and running, going along with the locomotive, doing all the tests, oscilloscopes, everything is with him inside the locomotive. So he has come from that stage. So that's why I thought he is the right person to give an overall view of all the equipment, the sophisticated equipment which are inside the locomotive. Thank you, Sadasivan. I think we
Thank you,
call
sir.
it.
Thank you
now.
everyone for the patient hearing.
Okay. Bye.
There is one question. Is the locomotive insured? Is the locomotive insured? I don't think that, because locomotive belongs to Indian Railways, and I don't think they see, when they import any equipment, there is an insurance coverage. The locally produced locomotive at Chitraranjan Locomotive Works, I don't think they insure. I'm not very sure, but I think any locomotive imported is insured till it reaches the Indian land, Indian soil.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
One more question is, what is approximate cost of the locomotive? The three-phase locomotive is costing around 13 to 14 crores rupees.
Now, what was the price?
Yeah, when it was imported, it was about 25 crores. Now it might be very close to 10 crore, I think.
Okay, you can leave the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone,
Bye.
for the question hearing.